Hello there, welcome to my TikTok. Now, one of the most frustrating things about shooting with Panasonic, and especially their S5 cameras, is the autofocus. Which, to be fair, it's such a shame because the S5 really is the best hybrid camera, packed with pro features and sold at a price of an amateur camera. The first time I got a Panasonic, I struggled a lot. It was a couple of weeks ago. You see, when I used to shoot on Canon, I never had to think of autofocus. It just worked. It was there, it worked, it was never in my mind. Panasonic, however, they were a different ball game. Until I stumbled upon this trick. Now that trick happened by accident. I was filming and I thought I'd forgotten to engage the back button autofocus button. I back button autofocus all the time, so I rushed to tap the screen so I could track the subject as like an auxiliary measure. And that actually worked. I noticed after I finished shooting that the performance was drastically different. I didn't want to rush it, and so I tested it over another weekend. I filmed in different places. I filmed back again at the lake. I filmed back at home in a controlled environment. I tested it with animals at the pond with my wife and children, and I was quite impressed. When I used the camera before, for example, it really struggled to track my running 3-year-old, and he is not even really that fast, but this time it worked incredibly well. And this is the trick. To engage this feature, it's quite simple. When you compose your shot and you have your focus box over wherever you want to focus on, just depress the joystick all the way down on top of the subject that you want to track, and it will track them. If you have big ugly thumbs like mine, then you just tap on the subject on the screen, and that seems to also do the trick. It works. It helps the autofocus a bit. So you put your box around the figure, that's where you want to track, press the joystick all the way down, or just tap on the screen, just point where you want the camera to look at. Again, this trick is simple, and after you do it, you will be amazed. I had a joyful time focusing the second time I went shooting. I was surprised. I got more shots than not. The first time I went out, I barely got a shot with the Panasonic. It was terrible. I ended up having to shoot in manual focus. So if autofocus is important to you, this is something that does really help. Now, other little things to remember about fixing your Panasonic S5 autofocus is that the camera focuses better if you shoot in HD. Now, a lot of people want to shoot 4K for the sake of shooting 4K. I only shoot for YouTube at the moment, so 4K is not necessary. People rarely stream in 4K. They tend to actually stream in 720p, sometimes in 1080p. So HD, good enough for me. It works and it does the job for me. Secondly, people love to shoot in 24 frames per second. You know, you get that very natural motion blur. However, Panasonic cameras, they use a contrast-based autofocus system. So shooting in 60 frames per second, shooting at a higher frame rate in full HD, it's just going to help the camera focus a little better. I don't want to make it a lot more technical, but that's just about that. Shoot in full HD, 60 frames per second, and remember, when you choose the subject you want to focus on, just tap on the screen on the actual subject and your camera will focus better. These are all the clips I took this time. My kids were racing, I was running, we're going in different directions, and except for a little focus hunting in there, which is normal, I was using an f4 lens. Other than that, everything was perfect. So I would say this actually makes the Panasonic S5 focus correctly, and I just don't know why Panasonic have not given it out as a tip, because with the autofocus working, at least functionally working, that takes their camera from a very good camera with great features but bad autofocus to probably the best camera. So anytime somebody comes and says, hey, I want to buy the first camera, what do you buy? I'd say buy the S5. It works, and the autofocus works with the trick. All right, until next time, guys. See ya.